Black Sabbath Sabotage is 50 years old today. It's July 28th, 2025. 50 years since Black Sabbath released the immense Sabotage album. There's my fully signed copy of it. I have to talk about this record. I wasn't going to, but Stephen Ward, good buddy of mine, reminded me that it is the 50th anniversary. It had completely slipped my mind, but did it. The great Christopher Knowles, the father of synchromysticism. I've been reading a lot of Christopher Knowles and listening to a lot of his podcast stuff, but I just realized that there was a synchromysticism that happened with me because I've been whistling "Don't Start Too Late" all day. Pretty bizarre. And then Stephen Ward reminds me that it is the 50th anniversary. So wow, very cool. I have to talk about this record because I have often talked about it as my favorite album of all time. It's definitely kind of the first one that comes to mind. You know, there's a couple others I mentioned. Oddly, another one of them comes from 1975. But yeah, let's hail and let's, especially on the, just days after Ozzy Osbourne died, tragically. Check out our Contrarians content on that. But the Sabotage album, what do I love about this record? So, being close to my favorite album of all time, or my favorite album of all time, it is my favorite Black Sabbath album of all time. I love this record because it is so intensely creative. I find that it's a white-knuckle Black Sabbath record. We know the stories about the band recording while they're getting served writs and they're fighting with their management situation, right? The Meehan father and son kind of situation here where, he's going off, Patrick Meehan's going off and starting NEMS, and NEMS is going, and NEMS is semi-authorized. We're going to see a Black Sabbath Live at Last album come out. We've got these greatest hits attention albums coming out. But Black Sabbath, through a haze of drugs and booze, and coming off of another very creative album in Sabbath Bloody Sabbath from 1973. By the way, I've been thinking a lot about the year 1974, and I've always had it in for that year, and you can check out a History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff episode on the horribleness of 1974 and the bad vibes of that year. And one of the things I don't like about that year is Black Sabbath doesn't have an album out that year. So in 1975, July 28th, 1975, they put out this Sabotage album. It's produced by the band with Mike Butcher. Mike Butcher is an engineer, as is Robin Black. Robin Black has a long-standing situation with the band. Tape Op and Saboteur, David Harris. But yeah, so this is essentially a self-produced album. As is really Technical Ecstasy, which sounds even better than Sabotage. If anything can sound better than Sabotage, as is Never Say Die. Kudos to Tony. He doesn't get enough credit for his production skills and working with engineers, granted. The cover art concept is by Graham Wright. Sweetheart of a guy. I interviewed him for my Black Sabbath book, Sabotage, and what's the other one called? Born Again. But he's in the Sabotage talking about the situation working for those guys. And there was a slightly alternate cover art idea. This is a bit weird. It's not the greatest album cover, but given that this is the greatest album of all time, it's the only cover that could be. The word Sabotage doesn't quite go with this cover concept with the mirror thing. I think the guys look really cool at this time. Bill's a little creepy looking. I like Bill with his mustache more than without the mustache. But Geezer and Tony look cool. Ozzy looks super cool. Ozzy looks great on this cover. And then, of course, you've got the back. My original Canadian copy that I own here, there's no inner sleeve or anything. The credits are all in the back, right? So yeah, what is so great about this album? How I mentioned another of my favorite albums of all time is from this year, and that is Led Zeppelin Physical Graffiti. I've often called that my favorite album of all time. But what I always say is that it took Black Sabbath one record to do what it took Led Zeppelin to do in terms of the amount of creative intensity and just tapping into the muse and some ungodly weirdness. Out there. Sabbath condensed it all and got as much creativity into one album that Led Zeppelin, the much more lauded band, put into. They had to take two records to make. We start off with Hole in the Sky, and you can hear immediately the incredible groove of Bill Ward here, the big bass cymbals, the one of the greatest guitar sounds of all time. And this album, of course, is lauded for being Ozzy's greatest vocal performance, probably of all time. So including the solo canon, but definitely in Black Sabbath, people think of Ozzy as being very powerful, singing high, screeching, a lot of strength to what he does. And you totally hear that in Hole in the Sky. I love that Hole in the Sky is also this miasma of post-hippie apocalyptic imagery and ecological, environmental themes out of Geezer. Very cool. Then we go into Don't Start Too Late, which is the Van Halen Spanish Fly of 1975 on Sabotage here. This really kind of ethereal, creepy, frantic sort of Spanish guitar playing from Tony. It's kind of a follow-up to your whole Embryo and Orchid situation. Maybe FX you can include in here as well, these short pieces. But I think it's just really, really cool and unsettling, and it just continues the creative vibe. And then it harangues into Symptom of the Universe with that, proto-thrash riff, but just great sort of a speed metal vibe. And then this is another one where Bill gets to go nuts on the drums with these great fills. And then the other cool thing about Symptom of the Universe, which we're going to get later on other songs, is that it starts in one place and goes to another, and they're just so creative. So at the time, maybe it's under the pressure, under the legal pressure of wondering whether they own their houses or not. And the drugs and the booze and Sabbath being, at this point, working super hard for 5 years and not seeing the record sales go up particularly, but still being a beloved band with a lot of press interest in them at this time. Maybe all of this is kind of cascading down upon their psyches, and they're just making this incredible creative, progressive metal sort of music. So yeah, Symptom of the Universe goes all over the place into a lot of weirdness. It's not as heavy later on as it is early on. Then we get into the great Megalomania, one of the great Sabbath songs of all time. And again, this is them just taking us on a big, long journey, all sorts of different parts, super interesting. Weird title, but the title is relating to this Patrick Meehan Jr. and Senior situation, where there's sort of it's a good intense lyric, and it's general enough and universal enough, but you feel like it's a little bit like a Queen Death on Two Legs, where they're talking about their whole fraught management situation. So an incredible closer. So two super heavy songs throughout here, and Symptom of the Universe, like I say, oddly, elusively super heavy at the beginning, but not as heavy at the end. Go over to side 2. You've got Thrill of It All. Again, one of my favorite Sabbath songs of all time. Again, a song that starts super heavy and then goes to this place where you're getting the technical ecstasy synthesizers and stuff coming in, like the melodicness. And the accessibility, but it's just couched or buried in this very, very sinister song, at least at the beginning of it. Very cool, interesting, enigmatic title, the thrill of it all. Then you're into Super Czar, and this is your predecessor to your breakout and your air dance kind of situation. It's like a classical heavy metal piece, but way better than Deep Purple ever did it. To me, this is almost like the mind of Bill Ward in here. But of course, it's everybody involved. But I think of Bill Ward because there's a lot of percussion, and again, it's crazy apocalyptic with those strange, unsettling angel voices in it. Otherwise, it's it's essentially instrumental, but very, very well composed, very dramatic, very creepy, but just a really cool thing. And having Super Czar in there, TZAR, is just weird. And again, just very, very like post hippie. But man, myth, and mystery. What is that? What is that occult magazine that was big around this time? But the occult's a big thing at this time. You think of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. This strikes me as a very Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath kind of song. As is "Am I Going Insane" Radio, right? So this is probably my least favorite song on the album, but again, it's just so wacky and strange and creepy and thespian and dramatic. With the crazy, the crying, the slowed down, somebody's baby, Ozzy's kid, somebody's baby, in there, slowed down sort of crying thing. The radio thing is, the whole thing. This was this comes from this was explained to me by one of the guys. It comes from like Cockney rhyming, right? Where they had a place called that they would get instruments from, I think in Birmingham, called Radio Rental. So it's like radio mental. So "Am I Going Insane" is mental, and then you've got radio at the end. Is all lines up with the Radio Rental place, right? So that's how that works out. And then we move into the Writ, which is another epic. So closing side 2 the same way we close side 1 with the longest song. And this is played super slow. It's atmospheric. Bill Ward has told me before, like the challenge, Neil Peart said this as well, the challenge is to play these slow songs really well. And the Writ is one of these. And Ozzy is just, again, white knuckle vocal performance from Ozzy on here. So cool. And creepy, and what a great title, The Writ. So which goes with megalomania, this whole management thing. But yeah, the lyrics all throughout this album are just very otherworldly and strange, and if they're in any way personal, they're like fraught and frantic and anxiety written personal, which is kind of what you get on the Writ. And you get that a little bit on Thrill of It All, but again, that's very poetic and strange. And megalomania, again, like the Writ, same sort of we're in an anxious state here sort of thing. So an absolute masterpiece of an album. The sequencing is incredible. If you think about it, Hole in the Sky lines up with Thrill of It All. Don't Start Too Late, an instrumental, lines up with Super Czar, an instrumental. Symptom of the Universe doesn't really line up with Am I Going Insane? But Megalomania lines up with the Writ as the long epics closing each side. So very, very interesting balance there. And then, of course, on some copies of the album, you've got very quietly at the end, the Blow on the Jug, the little joke tune. That goes for, I don't know, how long does it go for? 30 seconds, a minute, something like that. I want you to blow on a jug. Everybody blow on a jug. So it's like a little bluegrass sort of thing at the end, which is pretty weird. But absolutely, thank you to Black Sabbath. Thank you to the fallen Ozzy and Geezer and Bill and Tony for the great Sabotage album, the greatest album of all time by anybody. So yeah, let us know what you think of Sabotage in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please do that. I've got all these books, of course, the Black Sabbath books, both are still available, Sabotage and Born Again. And my newest book is Guns N' Roses at 40. And we've got Judas Priest album by album and the Big Maiden book behind me. I've got the audio podcast as well, History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff. Grant has his own channel, of course, Grant's Rock Warehouse. So always check out what Grant's up to as well. Grant is part of the Contrarians here, along with Marco and myself. And there you go. Go play some Sabotage, raise a pint or a gin and tonic, which is what I like to drink, to the great Sabotage album. And play this album and bathe your psyche in its magnificence. Bye for now.